Good evening and welcome to the Cabarrus County Board of Education's Monday, March the 7th, 2022 work session. We'll say thank you to the viewing audience for joining us live stream tonight, and I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask that all here join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board members, we will begin with items under number 3.01, and that's adopting the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Blackwell and a second by Ms. Carpenter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And now we will move to items under 4.01, board chair comments and superintendent comments. Just real quickly, board members, we had our planning session this past Saturday, which was great. It was very productive. I think all got a lot of really good information. Because we did cut it off short, I would like to see us do maybe one evening from about 5:30 to 8:30 or 9 and finish it on maybe a Thursday, if that would be good. So if y'all want to put out some dates to me and we can get with the staff to make sure that works okay, I'd like to see us finish that. Okay, and then with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kopicki.
Thank you. Our first report is going to come from Mr. Ben Allred. He's going to give us an update on the Cabarrus Science Health Institute. Mr. Allred.
Thank you very much. Never miss an opportunity to talk about a new school. So as you know, next year we're opening the Cabarrus Health Sciences Institute, partnership with Atrium Health and the Cabarrus College of Health Sciences. Just last week we heard that we got final approval from the State Board of Education and the State Board of Community Colleges. Our next hurdle or step is to go before the legislature, where they will give final approval and give us consideration for supplemental funding. That supplemental funding is around $120,000 annually to help the innovative component of cooperative innovative high schools. I had the pleasure of meeting with our freshman class last week. I was at the NC Ties Technology Conference in Raleigh, and from a hotel room, I was able to meet with our 60 kids, build a little excitement, learn what they need from the school, so that when we hire our principal, which should be quite imminent, I can share with him or her a little bit about the students. We'll go over into the building soon and begin the technology, furniture, school nutrition kind of refurbishment to get us ready to open for next year. So very exciting time. And then last, we have an open house on March 17th, which is next Thursday, for families and students. Thank you, Dr. Kopicki.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Allred?
Where's the open house going to be?
We're tentatively virtual for teams. The college and Atrium Health is still quite restricted in social distancing and spacing. So we'd like to have it face-to-face over there, but right now we're going to have it via Teams or maybe one of our high school auditoriums. We really want to get on campus, though.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you've done to make this happen. And I think all of us are very excited about it.
We are too.
Thank you, Mr. Allred.
Thank
Great
you.
opportunity for children and great example of leadership and forward thinking from Mr. Allred, Dr. Hill, and everyone who's been involved in this process up to this point. So thank you. Next, I would ask Mr. LeGrand to talk to us this evening briefly about some capacity concerns we have. He's going to give you an update as to where we are right now.
Good evening, Dr. Kopicki, members of the board. Just want to report real quickly that we're closely monitoring our capacity issue or capacity for each school across our district. We are identifying a few capacity issues in the north, specifically in the northwest and the southwest part of our county, where we're experiencing rapid growth throughout in those communities. Which leads to mobiles being moved and creating spaces for our students to have a classroom and teachers to have a classroom to teach in as we look into next school year. I'd like to point out that that's not necessarily across the district, but there are specific pockets in those northwest and southwest part of the county that we're seeing capacity issues. So just wanted to see if you guys had any questions or any discussion on that.
Board members, comments or questions? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeGrand. I would ask that you keep us updated too as we move out towards the next school year.
Sure will. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, just to remind the board, we are going to meet with our principals next week and talk to them about allowing visitors and volunteers back in. I do see us proceeding forward with that. We will follow, I believe it's policy 5515 and 5520, school visitors and our school volunteers policies, but I do want to just have a conversation briefly with our principals first before we welcome everyone back in. And again, we're going to follow the policies that exist in the district in terms of visitors and volunteers. And when we do that, we will announce it to the public as well that, you know, we will be letting volunteers and visitors back in according to our policy. I will keep the board informed on progress for that. I'd also like to update the board on our current situation that I'm sure many of you are realizing at the gas pump. Right now, our current situation is that our transportation department continues to pay premium prices for both diesel and gasoline. The price continues to go up with a 30-cent jump over the weekend, and we are continuing to receive deliveries, and availability seems to be somewhat constant at this time, according to Mr. Whitaker. We're working with our fuel vendors daily to seek the best price and availability, and we are now paying over $4 a gallon for diesel fuel. That is 2.5 times what we normally pay. So we're working with finance to identify funding sources and to continue to make sure that we have adequate fuel supply to keep our buses running. But I just want to update the board on that and let you know Mr. Whitaker, his team, and Carol Herndon are doing an outstanding job, our CFO, at making sure that we're seeking out every opportunity to keep a good handle on the fuel prices. But as you know, when you fill your car up, you see the prices that I see. I believe today I paid $4.27 today for gas, and I think it was $3.89 yesterday when I was driving around Concord. So, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it is something that we are very concerned with. So just keep you up to date on that. Lastly, for me, just a reminder to everyone, we had the good fortune this past week to see Central Cabarrus High School and to see J.M. Robinson High School boys basketball teams both participate in the semifinals at the state level. Unfortunately, Central Cabarrus was defeated by West Charlotte, but however, J.M. Robinson did win, and they will advance and participate this Saturday at 2:30 at Chapel Hill. Both teams represented our school system in a spectacular fashion. And for me, the thing that I noticed the most about watching these gentlemen play throughout the course of the year was not so much the talent that is on the court, because it's tremendous, and they're to be commended for that, but it's the way they handled themselves throughout the year. That's a credit to their coaches, to the administrators, to their teachers, to the parents. They played hard in every game I saw, but they always played, I feel, in every step of the way with great sportsmanship, and were total gentlemen at the end of the game and represented our district in fine fashion. We will bring them in and their coaches in at a future board meeting to acknowledge and recognize their achievements, so we'll keep you posted on that. Also, a little more detail on our in the future too with our VEX robotics team. I was able to see one of their competitions recently at one of our middle schools, and we do have students that are going to be representing us at the World Championships in Dallas, and that's coming up in the future. Our VEX robotics team is just spectacular to watch and see, and the enjoyment, the joy of our kids, and the engineering process and some of the things that they go through to produce the robotics machines that they work during their competitions. We had a gym full of people watching a recent competition it was very exciting to watch. So we will bring those students in as well to acknowledge their accomplishments and to wish them well as they continue to proceed forward and compete at the World Championships. So I will keep you updated on that as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Kopicki, when you're having the discussion with the principals next week, is kind of in regards to getting back to normal, I realize that the lockers have not been able to be utilized, and I know that that's been a concern for a lot of students and a lot of parents. So is that something that you could bring up as well with the principals?
I will discuss that with them as well, and I will report back to the board on what they tell me.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, with that, we will move to items under Ms. Carpenter.
And excuse me, I know she mentioned lockers, and I know Tim had mentioned last week. And again, we don't know about the water fountains. Will that be something that they will, because he mentioned that a couple weeks ago. And I don't know when that will be something that we can discuss, because I know when I was in school last week, somebody asked me about that, if they were going to cut the water fountains back on. And I don't know how long that'll take. I know
Right.
it's with the restrictions, but I don't know if that's something you can check also.
I can include that in my conversation with our principals, administrators, and report back to the board as well.
Because I know they use water bottles now and things like that. So that would be wonderful with that if we could do that. And can I make one other comment? And two, I know a lot of you participated last week in Read Across America. I think about every board member did. And I know we really enjoyed that. And I want to thank the teachers and the principals and staff. We really enjoyed that. And I know I had a great time doing it, and want to thank everybody for that. And again, I think about every one of us read at least 2 or 3 schools last week, and it was a lot of fun. And thank you so much to let us be able to do that.
So with that, we'll have to share because this was just too precious. It was a kindergarten's class, and I went in, and they always introduce us as who we are, and some of them understand, some of them do not. But this one little boy got up and he said, "I just want to know, just what do you do?" So the teacher said, "Well, you probably don't have time for that answer tonight or today." I thought that was really good. Just what do you do? So it was. We really enjoyed that. It was great to participate. Okay, so 5
I had a question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dr. Kapicki, I know I've been very vocal about getting visitors into our school. I was at an event this weekend, and I was able to hear from a principal and just wanted to let the public know that, when we are able to get visitors, it would be nice for folks to be able to come in and allow the teachers to get a break, or allow the administrators to get a break from lunch, or, just to go to the bathroom, things of that nature. And that's what this principal spoke about. So as soon as we're able to do that, and that's communicated to the public, just want to put that out there as an invitation for you guys to really be willing to help our school system and the staff be able to get breaks throughout the day.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move to 5.01, and I will start with Ms. Adcock on committee reports.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone that we're still collecting donations for the CCS intern student-led service project, and that we're accepting those donations through the end of this week. They are at J.M. Robinson High School, Mount Pleasant Elementary School, Cox Mill High School, Hickory Ridge High School, and West Cabarrus High School. And also, we had our district academic service meeting today, and I have some highlights I'd like to read about it. And this was a collaborative between a lot of different people. We got to look at a timeline of the work that's being done with K-3 literacy in Cabarrus County. And Heidi Little, the elementary instructional specialist, was there that gave us a presentation. We talked about at the end of 2018-19, the data there is not reflective of the shifts that this school system has made to support the science of reading. And we talked a lot about focusing on more than just comprehension. And as the work began in the fall of 2019, so this was pre-pandemic, the school system was already talking about reading. Academic services worked closely with teachers during the pandemic to make these shifts. And the 2021-2022 data will begin to reflect the shifts in teaching and learning that align with the science of reading. So the academic services is planning for school year 2022-23 and beyond to provide the best customer service, alignment, and engagement for our students and teachers. So we just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Board members, anything else? I know a couple of you will have reports next Monday. Anything at all? Okay, with that, I just want to make sure that Laura, with you and the Literature and Supplemental Materials Steering Committee, that was a mouthful, if y'all will make sure that y'all get with Jay and with the staff to start that process, and also Keisha, you with Student Services. And then we'll get a report on that maybe in April. Does that sound good to you, too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, now I will turn it over to Mr. White. Nothing at all. Okay, moving to items under number 6.01, items for consent or action for our March 14th business meeting. Oh, we decided we were skipping that, but I'll go with that. 5.03. Would you like to do a COVID report?
Mr. Basley, briefly, please, just to update the board.
We were prepared to skip that tonight, John.
It's brief, and I can tell the board that the news is nothing but encouraging and very positive. So I think Mr. Basley can go through this rather quickly.
Sure. This will be very quick.
I don't want to steal the time that he gets at the spotlight too every week. Thank you, John.
I'm grateful. Thank you. So you all know the cadence that we go through here, right? So we'll just go quickly. You can see that the community positivity rate is down into single digits at 6.1%. Our 2-week case count is down to 370. You can see from the trend lines, even if I don't tell you the numbers, you can see that the graph is crashing, and that's an encouraging thing for us to see. In particular, you're seeing almost alignment between the number of quarantines and positive cases, okay? More of the same here. This is just more in a table format for you to see that the number is 17 cases, positive cases, and 22 quarantines. If you think about where we were at the very start of the calendar year, we're at 1,603, down to 22. Okay, and then our the same general curve with a giant surge and then a steep crash. That's where we are with our staff as well. And this is what our metrics look like. You can see there are no indicators that are in the orange or red. Our 2 community indicators are in the yellow and have fallen pretty dramatically into the yellow. And all 3 of our school indicators are in green. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving to 6.01, items for the consent or action for the business meeting for March 14th. We will begin with the 2022-2023 academic calendar proposal. And this is a discussion that we need to have as a board, since we've actually already adopted a calendar for that year. But there's been some discussion about how we could address learning loss. I'm part of the chairs within the district, and some of the criteria that we've discussed addressing it is we need tools. We're going to have something that's different and out of the box. So spoke with Dr. Kapicki and with Sue Burns and just asked, what would it look like, for us to maybe make some changes to, we've always had this discussion, and for the newer board members, I'm not sure how much we've had that discussion, but it's always forever been a discussion about having flexibility with the calendar. And we know that that would be one of the requests we would have with the state in order to address learning loss. Time is what we would need to address additional programs or to add anything additional. So I would like for Ms. Burns to come up. I wanted to just put this out there. You've had it. You're able to look at it, for us to discuss it, and then maybe just send it back to the calendar committee for feedback from them, if you will. But I would like your opinion on what you think and the pros and the cons that has taken place with your discussion.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. So this was kind of last minute. I don't have anything prepared. We did look at, and just to make this clear, this was not a calendar committee recommendation. So this is something that Ms. Grimsley and I and Dr. Kopicki and Dr. Withers all kind of looked at what would that look like. So if we were to, and what we had talked about was an early starting school earlier in August, the 10th, I believe, for students, and being able to be finished by Christmas break for semester 1, and then semester 2 would end by Memorial Day. So that would significantly shift our calendar about 2 weeks earlier. The pros, we have wanted for a very long time to be able to finish first semester by Christmas and second semester by around Memorial Day. So that is the positive. It also provides for, and I might be wrong, 2 or 3 extra days of school compared to what our traditional calendar would look like next month or next year. The cons of that is that it's March and, you know, families and staff members may have already made plans for the beginning of August. So it's really a timing as to whether, you know, that would be the way to go or not. And I'll let you speak to the calendar laws and all that kind of thing.
So the state, you know, sets the date that we have to start and end every year and has forever. And we've all had these discussions as boards, and I know for board members it's been on for a while. You know how long the discussion has been had. The North Carolina School Board Association has always gotten behind a effort to have the state look at it again every year, and every year it's pretty much denied. We know that it probably needs to be a different initiative this coming year because it really could and should be used as a learning loss tool, because there's really nothing else that we have other than programming during the time frame than to have extra days added to the calendar. Some of the districts have said same thing. It's probably a little late, you know, to do this without really upsetting, you know, some time frames for a lot of people, and that may very well be. And there's two options, one for the 10th and one for the 17th. So, you know, whatever our discussion would be, I think would probably be best at the calendar committee to get feedback from them. But also just knowing that we're working with the staff and coming up with learning loss tools. This would be one of our efforts to align with the early college calendar and also Wolf Meadows year-round time frame as well. Correct?
Yeah, it's closer to the early college than Wolf Meadow, but I think if we had to, we could adjust that calendar to be in line with what we're looking at.
Right. So it may be that, you know, this just looking at it this year, it may be more practical to implement it next year or to ask the state to look at it, you know, because this will have to be approved by the state. But just starting the conversation here is where it needs to start, and then having the feedback from the calendar committee and or a recommendation or not, and then see if it is something that, you know, all would be willing to address it for this year or not, and maybe start the effort more so in the next calendar year. Dr. Hickey, would you like to speak to it before I start discussion with the board members?
So I think the suggestion to go to the committee would be a positive step, for a positive first step. I think the second thing I would say is that the change would, if implemented, would create a shorter summer, but for 1 year, as we all know, and then long term it would adjust itself to not have that situation occur in the second year. Thirdly, academically, it lines up a little better for us if we have a clean break at Christmas and then have the Christmas break and then come back and start the second semester fresh instead of leaving Christmas then coming back and try to end. I would like to hear the board's comments on that, though, their thoughts, and then I think that would be wise to go to the committee and then to consult with our legal counsel as well.
Great. Ms. Sandage, I'll start on your end.
So, Sue, you took the words right out of my mouth about the calendar committee. I think that it should go there first before coming to us for a discussion. I really think we've put the district and our community through a lot of changes at this point, maybe not directly from the Board of Education, but just in general, our community has gone through a lot of changes, and this would be a big one. So I think wanting to hear what the staff would say, and then maybe if we can even get some feedback from parents and students, that would be good too, just to hear their thoughts. But I definitely agree with the logic behind trying to, you know, reduce the learning loss as we go forward, and thinking in that mindset, you know, trying to come up with ideas. Maybe there are more ideas than just changing the calendar. So again, taking it to the calendar committee first and possibly surveying our community and our students.
Thank you. Mr. Walter?
Yeah, I think I've been in favor of doing what's best for our community locally, and ending this first semester before Christmas break has always been a goal of a lot of people, and I think I've been supportive of that, but we've always been told that you can't do it or you're violating the law. And then it goes back against the superintendent, apparently, if we did it. So has that changed? Is that going to change? I mean, we've gone to our legislative committee and our legislative agenda numerous times and sent that up to Raleigh. And like you said, it hasn't gone anywhere.
Right, but it hasn't been on our legislative agenda since I've been on
it was the
board.
last one we did. So
the calendar flexibility, but not this particular.
Not a proposed plan,
Right.
that is true. But
Right.
the intent was to end it by end the first semester, semester by Christmas break that's been out there. I also think we need to get feedback from our calendar committee. I think if we are going to make a change, we need to make it an evidence-based change as well. If we're going to say it's going to be learning loss, let's show the evidence for that, not just say it may work. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you. So it is, y'all do understand that we as the board have to ask the calendar committee to actually do this, right? It's got to come from us, so that's why I'm putting it on there tonight. We have to be the one to actually send it back to them, okay? Mr. Furr?
Yes, no, I have no problem sending it back to the calendar committee, but I know since I've been down here since 2008, we have asked our legislators every year to do this, and we've just never been successful. I mean, we went to Raleigh and stressed it, and I know it's got to do with the eastern part of the state with tourism, is what the excuse we've always had. But if we can show, like Rob said, where the learning loss is benefited by doing this, then this may be our best chance to get this accomplished.
Ms. Blackwell?
So to Tim's point, yes, that was what I was going to bring up too, is that this has been something that we've asked for many, many times, even long before I was on the board, and has been pushed to the side because the tourism has apparently taken precedence over our children. We all know that over Christmas break, these children are not studying for whatever exams that they might have. So not only is this going to be a better tool for the learning loss, but this is what makes sense and is in the best interest of our students. So absolutely, I think we should take this back to the calendar committee and start there and try to push to get this actually done.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Again, as Tim mentioned, we have asked over and over and have been denied, and one of our big thing is, like, the kids do have to come back in January and then take exams. They have forgotten everything that they've gone through and have to take those tests when they get back, and we've tried before to get them the semester before Christmas and take those exams then, and we've been denied. And we've got that, plus we've got what has happened with the pandemic, and we've done better than some districts, but still we're not where we need to be. But we've got to do something about it. I am in complete agreement that we need to send this back and see what they say, and send it back to the calendar committee. And so I agree 100%. And let's do something about it.
Right. Ms. Adcock?
I think I'm in agreement with it from what I've heard so far, but I do want to ask, is this a long-term solution or just for 1 year? Is this something we're going to continue to do every year? We're going to, if we get it approved once, will we have to approve it every year? I mean, how does that work?
It really will be driven by the state, what their response is, what they, will allow. They may say that they'll approve it this time for X number of years. We really don't know till we actually send it forward. And the difference this year is going to be we've never presented a calendar for them. We've never presented a draft or a resolution, and some of the surrounding counties have done that or are in the process of doing it. So that's what makes this one different this year. We've never given them exact dates. We've just asked for some flexibility. So I think this will give them a better idea of what the surrounding counties are actually looking for.
So this would be every year from this point forward, we would start school earlier and end earlier in the year. Is that right? I'm hearing
If they
you
approve
say?
it, right.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Anything else? Okay, so with that, we will ask Ms. Burns to take the proposed drafts A and B back to the calendar committee. Thank you. And then we will ask her to return to the podium for items under number 6.02, which are the policies for approval on first read. And I'm going to do like we normally do, so we'll start the process if that's okay with you.
Ms. Grimsley, can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So when I bring this back to the calendar committee, what is our time frame for this? Do you want them to meet this week?
That would be great.
Okay.
If we could.
Okay, so what that does is makes feedback a little more difficult, but I will gather as many as I can this week.
So we know that with our meeting being Monday, and we know if we do send in a different representation, it has to be done by April the 1st, and this is the only other meeting that we have left. If it's not doable, then we'll just figure
Okay.
it out from there. But if it is doable, that would be
We can
great.
get together this week,
Okay.
I'm sure.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So just to clarify, I keep hearing back to the calendar committee. This hasn't went to the calendar committee already, has it?
No, ma'am. It
Oh,
has
okay.
not.
I just
And
wanted-
I just used that word and will be presented to the calendar committee for their feedback. How's that? And they may have some great idea that we didn't think of.
Right, and really, it is kind of going back because we've already approved a calendar this
Yes,
year.
that's
so
right.
that
Going
really
back
does-
for
yeah.
revision, you're
Yeah,
correct,
so that's
yeah.
probably where the clarification is. All right, so policies for approval on first read. Have you had any comments or questions from any?
I had some questions from Ms. Edcock. Are you satisfied with your answers? Is there, and it was with policy 3420 and 4300.
So I'll just run down those real quick. 3420 is the student promotion and accountability. Were your questions answered, Ms. Adcock?
I really and truly was just concerned about the language of us saying that we would retain kids back and starting next year. And that language that was in there, I just had some questions, which I really don't feel like were answered.
Okay. There's state law that says, and we've been doing this, and Dr. Hill, correct me if, or feel free to come up and help out if you need to. The state law says that if a student is not up to grade level, that they will be retained. So all of this has been going on. It's been 11, 12 years possibly that this has been in the law. So we're not doing anything different with this, but there are the exceptions and the interventions that are done and that type of thing.
Yeah, it just was additional language that was added, so I didn't know.
So I'll be honest with you, that one paragraph was already in the PLS update. So when I go through and add in their additions and deletions that they do, I also read both policies. And if I see that there's something that was pretty significant in the PLS update, then we review that and see if that is something that we feel should be in our policy, since that was state law. And the policy committee said, yeah, we're already doing all of this. This is not new. It's been many, many years that it was called the End Social Promotion Law or something like that. So it's been several years. So it's not new. And I apologize if it made it look like it was new because we had just put it in there.
Thank you for clarifying
Sure.
that. That clears it up.
Board members, anybody else on that particular policy? Hearing none. We'll move to 4300, student behavior policies.
I think we need some more discussion on this policy. And these are just recommendations, but this is really the policy that the schools are using when making decisions on discipline decisions. And as it was told to us, and I'd really like to see the data. I haven't seen data lately, but we're suspending kids more than we should. And if they're using this policy, I think this policy can be improved some to prevent some of that happening. And I think, I don't know if it's the policy committee that should be reviewing this, or if we should set up a different committee to review this policy, but if that is a priority that the superintendent has mentioned he wants to address, I think we need to support that by improving what we got. And the changes here really don't address any of that other than the last part.
Mr. Walter, can I
Absolutely.
add to that? We have in here, it talks about the student code of conduct, and that is included in our student parent handbook that is online that the students and parents go through. Much more detailed than this. This is really our basic, these are the levels, and we go to the different behavior policies. Our student code of conduct has each of those policies and has them broken out on, the different levels of infraction and consequences and that kind of thing. If what you're talking about is a review of the student code of conduct, that would be a little different than reviewing the policy.
I wasn't specifically referencing that. I was referencing the policy the board sets, but it is probably more complicated than I'm making it out to be. But it starts with the policy. So I just think maybe some more discussion.
If I may, I think what Ms. Burns is saying is probably accurate. I would recommend we approve the policy and we'll come back with the code of conduct, and we can have discussion on that and address things that way. That is where you would address it.
Okay, can we get the data? for the
Sure,
survey?
absolutely. But I would recommend passing the policy because the policy is not as specific as the code of conduct is. And that's probably where we need to take a harder look at how we're sending kids in terms of the disciplinary consequences.
Okay,
So that we could have discussion on it. I could provide the evidence and the data to that, but I would recommend passing the policy.
okay.
Thank you.
Rob, are you okay with that?
As long as we don't forget about it, yeah.
I promise we won't.
All right, 4,400 attendance. Any comments or questions? 4,700 student records.
Okay.
Okay.
That one goes to.
Will you key up, please?
4,700 and 4,720. I would like both of those put on action. 4,700, you know where I stand on 47 because of what it consists of. The same way with the survey of students. Again, there's a lot of particulars on that one.
So let me just ask you, did you have anything in particular that you?
Well, yeah, it's the way that one's structured. You know, the parents have to look for things, and it's at the details of that one. And that's why I'd rather have a vote on it and give us all a chance. That's why I want it just on action. But 4,700, I've said numerous times, because of the details and what we have on those student records, that's where I have my problem. But I just want them put on actions, please.
Okay, and tell me, which board members are on the policy committee? So you're on the policy, okay, and who else? Keisha, okay. So did you make any recommendations?
No, now this past meeting, I was not that, and that's the first one I've missed, and I had another thing that I had to attend, and I was not able to attend the last policy meeting.
But what I'm asking is, do you have any recommendations that you wanted them to consider?
Well, no, because one of the things with student records, that one, some of the things are required, some of them aren't, and this board has done those student records forever and ever. I mean, I'd be more than happy to put my recommendations out there, but I don't think I would have 4 votes to make that happen. But I'll give you,
But did you recommend it at your committee meetings?
not the last one.
Okay.
But see, these are PSL changes is all they had on this one.
Right.
So that's all it was talking about was PSL changes. As you can see, that's all they
PLS?
had.
Okay, so you're okay with it as it is, but just on the action agenda, but no
Just on the action
recommendations?
agenda.
Okay.
That's all that you've got on this one's just PSL changes.
Okay, all right. Are you good? Okay. 5010, parent organizations. 8305, federal grant administration. And 8310, annual independent audit.
This is the one that Carolyn's mentioned before, that we heard at the School Boards Association that at a period of time you should go with a different auditor and not use the same auditor constantly. I think something in a policy that references that would be a good idea.
And I think we had that discussion at the audit that we would be doing that the next, right, okay. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Okay, all good? But everyone's okay with that one being on consent? Okay, so what I heard is 3420, 4300, 4400, 5010, 8305, and 8310 will be consent, with 4700 and 4720 being action. Right. Okay. Sarah, are you good? Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Burns. Okay, now we will move to 6.03 for the amendment to the professional services agreement for R. Brown McAllister. We will have Mr. Tim Louder.
Good evening. Just came from Cabarrus County Commissioners meeting where they approved the amendment to our budget to allow us to do this. So I want to make sure that was done before we present it to you. This is a request that you approve a change order for the architectural services for the R. Brown McAllister Elementary School. When we got to our DD phase, or our preliminary DD phase, and had a lot of overages on our budget. And at that point in time, our construction manager at risk came back and made about 75 recommendations as to how we could modify our design to reduce the cost. And we've settled on most of those, and we're looking at a reduction of about $6.581 million. But in doing so, it does require quite a bit of redesign on our part to do that, to be able to accommodate that reduction. And in doing so, those fees to change that design are $293,750 request for change order from the architect. So we spend $293,000 to save basically $6.5 million on the cost. We would also ask that you consider suspending the rules to vote on this tonight and to allow us as much time as possible. We're 3 months away from final pricing, so they've got a lot of work to do in the next 3 months to make sure we're ready for this.
Board members, are you okay with amending the agenda to add this for an approval for an action item? Okay.
Pardon?
If we're going
You need a vote tonight for it?
Please.
All good? Okay. May I have a motion that we amend the agenda to add 6.03, an amendment to the professional service agreement for R. Brown McAllister Elementary School?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Adcock, a second by Ms. Blackwell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, may I have a motion that we approve the presentation of the amendment to the professional services agreement for R. Brown McAllister Elementary School as presented in the amount of $293,750. And Tim, is that complete? Is that number complete and whole? Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Blackwell. Second. A second by Mr. Furr. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, you
Thank you
have a
very much.
unanimous vote. Very good.
Continue to look for ways to save money. but
And
thank
there you, that's exactly right. Always on ways to save money. That's good. Okay, so with that, we will move to 6.04, the Roberta Cochran Road Improvement Contract Approval. Mr. Louder.
Yes, ma'am. We had a bid opening on March 1st and did not receive enough bids to be able to open the contracts, did not receive 3 bids. We re-advertised first thing Wednesday morning. We will be taking bids again this coming Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., at which time if we get 1, 2, or 3, we will be able to open those bids and bring them back to you for presentation at your actual, voting session.
So discussion, questions or comment? And I'll start with Ms. Sadcock.
I don't have any questions.
Ms. Carter. Ms. Blackwell.
I'm just curious, why are we not getting bids?
We have we had 4 bidders scheduled to bid, and NCDOT had a big bid letting just about the week before our bids came out, and a couple of our contractors, some of them got up as much as $20 million worth of contracts out of that bid, so they did not have the workforce to be able to perform the work for us. They had to drop out, and so that put us below our hope. We would have 3 bids, but we did not.
Gotcha. Thank you. That makes sense. Appreciate it.
Mr. Furr.
Nothing.
Mr. Walter.
What's the budget for this one?
This one I think is about $1.6 million total. We moved $500,000 into this account a couple months ago to make sure we had enough funds to do it.
You think that'll be okay?
It should be.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Sandage. Okay. Are all okay for the consent agenda? Yes. Okay. All right.
I'll put that next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, 6.05, the HVAC controls upgrades, and we'll have Mr. Chuck Taylor to the podium.
Good evening, Board. So this evening I would like to ask you to approve the purchase through sole source for HVAC controls. Over the last 8 years, we've implemented some changes in the schools and added many schools to be able to see them online. All this does is upgrade the actual HVAC system that's in place. The big question is, will you approve it for sole source? Okay, and according to 143-129 North Carolina General Statute, it meets paragraph E, number 6, all 3 criteria. There isn't anyone that can provide competitive bidding or pricing for these parts. The standardization and compatibility component, we don't want to change from Train. If we do, we're going to raise the price at least 5 times. What we're looking at is just upgrading the simple controls just so that we can see them. This increases our efficiency as a maintenance department. Any questions?
Okay, board members, Ms. Sandage, comments or questions?
I don't know that I understood what you said. So this is just gonna, and I'm just trying to be as real as possible. So this is just saying that we have a system already. We just need to improve it by adding some additional parts. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, let me break this down really simply.
Thank
you.
you.
This is really easy. Right now, we can't go online and see that system, its parts, and how it's functioning. After this upgrade, my technicians can get on their computer at home before they ever leave and see what's going on to give them an idea of what tools, parts, and pieces they're going to need to make the repair or attempt the repair. It gives us a level of troubleshooting so that we don't actually have to deploy to the site before we understand what's happening there. It's a huge efficiency piece.
Crystal clear. Thank you.
Mr. Walter?
When we read policy 6430, we're missing a step here. It says, pursuant to the general statute, upon approval of the board, the school system may purchase an item through a single or sole source contract under the following circumstances. 1, when the performance or price competition is not available. 2, when a needed product is available from only one source or of supply. Or 3, when standardization or compatibility is the overriding consideration. You're saying we meet those?
Yes, sir, all three of them.
And then it says, well, when requesting a purchase under the sole source exception, the finance officer shall provide the board with documentation that justifies the use of the exception. So can we get that?
That is correct, except your board policy says that you have to approve it.
Right, but I haven't seen the finance.
It's actually in the statute as well.
Do we have something from the finance officer?
I haven't provided anything in writing, but I worked side by side with Chuck through this process, and he and I validated together that we met the 3 different points.
Okay, can you send us something by next week?
Sure.
Thank you.
Or I can put it in the Friday communication.
Just something where we
whatever's
meet the
easiest.
standard that's in the policy, that's all.
We can validate that this week for you so that on March 14th at the regular business meeting that we can approve this, but we can
That'd be
have that
outstanding.
information. No worries, thank you.
Mr. Farr?
No questions.
Ms. Blackwell?
No questions.
Ms. Carpenter?
My question is,
Would you key up, please?
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. It says it is budgeted. So this money is coming out of the budget. It's not out of fund balance or anything to pay for this?
No, ma'am, this is actually a less than 25,000 project. Every year we've plugged away at 3 of these. It just happens this year the 3 schools that we're targeting are trained schools, trained systems. It doesn't have a programming in it that we can have other vendors bid on. This is completely proprietary. Now, if we were to try to bid this out, instead of looking at, I think the average is just under 24,000 or just over 24,000, we're going to be looking at about 125,000.
So, I mean, but it wasn't something that, we've already have it budgeted then, so it wasn't something we had to take out.
Yes, ma'am, you're not giving me anything extra.
You're not giving me, okay, that's what I wanted to hear. You know how I like big bang for my buck. Okay, so we've
Have you ever gotten anything less from me, ma'am?
I know, but we've met the requirement, and it's not coming out of fund balance. Those are the 2 requirements that you know I want to be able to meet. All
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
thank you.
Ms. Adcock?
No questions.
Okay, so board members, I'm assuming I'm hearing it probably needs to go on the action agenda. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, we will move to 6.06. This is a naming request for the auditorium at the Harold Winkler Middle School, and we will have Dr. Michael Williams to the podium.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good evening.
Good. So I'm here with Rebecca Phillips, who is the principal at Winkler, Diana Swiner, who is an outstanding 8th grade math teacher at Winkler. And I am speaking on behalf of the staff at Winkler today not as the human resource director, all right, as the former principal. So we are here to, under policy 9300, to request that we name the auditorium at Winkler Middle School in honor of Charles Martin Eford. He's a former teacher at J.M. Freeze in Winkler Middle School. He passed away in September of 2021. Mr. Eford was a CCS graduate who returned after college to give back to our district and our community. He was an outstanding science teacher for 36 years, impacting the lives of countless students and colleagues. Mr. Eford retired in December of 2020, but became ill in the summer of 2020 and passed, or 2021, and passed away in September. His death shocked us all as we were excited to hear about the journeys that he would be taking with his wife after such a remarkable career. At Winkler, beyond his outstanding classroom instruction, Mr. Eford was dedicated to two things: our baseball team and our auditorium. He did not miss a game at our school or the Intimidators or his beloved Tar Heels, and he was present at nearly every event in that auditorium for over a decade. We knew he would be in the sound booth for every band concert, every chorus concert, every drama performance, every step show, every speaker. He even came to karaoke night, where he made sure that he always picked the videos with the clean lyrics. His dedication was to ensure our students had the best audiovisual support they could get, because he was so proud of their talents, their gifts, and their willingness to get up on that stage. As a result, pursuant to Board Policy 9300, we request to rename the space at the Charles Martin Eford Auditorium to honor his contributions to the students of Cabarrus County Schools and to Harold Winkler Middle School during his long career. We thank you for your consideration.
So I will open it up for comments or questions, and I'll start with Ms. Adcock.
I just want to say I think it's awesome that you guys are coming up with this, and I would definitely support it.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter.
I say ditto.
Ms. Blackwell.
So I can't think of a better way to honor someone who gave his life literally to the school system. It just goes to show you how short life is, and you just don't know when your time is going to be. I can't think of a better way to honor him. So thank y'all for doing this. This is wonderful.
Mr. Furr.
No, I think this is wonderful. I actually, knew him from teaching my kids, so absolutely.
Mr. Walter.
He's had a huge impact on the school. He will be missed. So.
Ms. Sandy.
That gave me goosebumps. Thank you for that presentation. So question, what does this mean? What does that look like? What will change in the auditorium? Can you help me understand
Yeah,
that?
it's a great question. So we will change the signage on the auditorium. We'll do a plaque to recognize his contributions, and then we'll change the signage on the two doors above the auditorium to name the auditorium. His wife has requested the Martin Eford Auditorium because that's what he went by.
Thank you.
And there's not anything the board members haven't covered, and I knew him as well from being on the board before, so I think it's an honor for us to be able to do this and to do it on behalf of his family. So
Thank you.
Our pleasure. And board members, good for the consent agenda?
Yes.
All? Okay. All right. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay, with that, we will move to items under 7.01, approval of the serving lines, and we will have Mr. John LeGrand to the podium.
All right, good evening again. I have with me our Assistant Director of SNP, Mrs. Carrie Bostick. She's here standing in for Stephanie Almond, who is on a much-deserved vacation. And she's going to present a PowerPoint on our proposal for purchasing serving lines for some of our individual school sites.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about serving lines. Serving lines keep food in a safe environment while serving many students in a short amount of time. There are many styles of serving lines. The first one you see here is what's called a modular serving line, and you can see it's got hot and cold wells. The second is a transport serving line. This is what we use for breakfast carts or something like that, like a grab-and-go style meal. The second is also a transport, it's just a larger version. And the last is what's called a custom-built serving line. Okay, so serving lines have different components. We have hot wells and cold wells to make sure that temperature is accurate in the food. And then we have a flat top. That's typically for shelf-stable items, oranges, bananas, things of that nature. Also for your a la carte sales. And then you have what's called a sneeze guard, and that keeps the food safe as students are coming through the line. At the end of the line, of course, you have your cashier station. Okay, S&P, we strive to make sure we do our best to serve the students. We do have 4 schools that are in desperate need of new serving lines, so we're able to do this. We have the opportunity to replace 5 serving lines in 4 different schools. Central Cabarrus, listed first, actually would replace 2 serving lines. We have their main serving line, and then we also have what's called a quick bite kitchen. And what that is grab and go style food, so anything you can wrap, like hamburgers, chicken sandwiches, things of that nature. And then Wolf Meadow, Weinkauf, and Irvin Elementary Schools. This is a picture of the existing lines at Central Cabarrus. The large picture is the main serving line, and we purchased that in 1966. That is not a typo. The bottom picture, you can see that's the wells with the rust on there. Now, that's not a food contaminant or anything like that. The food doesn't touch it, but rust and metal are never a good combination. And the top picture is the one I referred to about the quick bites area. Next is Wolf Meadow. It was purchased in 1997. So the wear and tear and the age of these serving lines are hard for our maintenance guys to keep up with the repairs. A lot of times they don't have the parts. They just don't make them anymore. The same with Irvin, and it was purchased in 2000. And, oh, I missed one. Weinkauf. It was also purchased in 2000. So this slide shows you the value of each serving line. As you can see, Central Cabarrus, it includes both your main serving line and that quick bite kitchen. So that's why it's at a higher price than the rest of them. These are custom built serving lines. So we do have to act fast. It is hard for vendors to provide us a price and lock in a delivery date by June 30th. We actually were able to only find one vendor who could do that for us. And if we do choose to do this vendor, we have to act within the next week to get it here by June 30th.
So Carrie, are we good for next Monday night? Approval for the...
Well, we would requestfully, I guess respectfully ask that we move forward with approval tonight if possible to go ahead and get this so we can get it in on June 30th. But of course, that's at the pleasure of the board.
So what was that number again? Can you go back one screen? Okay, board members, I need a motion to amend the agenda to add this as an action item.
I'll make that motion to amend.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is on the action. You're exactly right. Okay, apologize. Yes, okay, so we do not have to do that. So let's $342,503.52. All right, so may I have a motion that we approve the serving lines in the amount of...
Can I ask a question?
Sure, I'm sorry, yes. Can you key up, please?
Yes. My question is, where is this money coming from? Is it actually coming from y'all's budget? Is it coming from fund balance? I know y'all have your own budget and everything. So is it coming from your budget? Is it coming from fund balance? Where is this $342,503.52 coming from?
So a portion of it is coming from our budget, and then the other portion is Stephanie, our director, and John work closely with the finance officer for the other portion.
So is it coming from our budget?
Finance did provide the majority of the funding on this, and we are very thankful for that, Mrs. Herndon. But and S&P is also, I think it breaks down to about $280 from finance and $62,000 from S&P.
Is that ESSA funds, or is that where? I mean, or is it just? I mean,
no, ma'am. Actually, in the 2021-2022 local budget, there was a provision made for this project should we have the opportunity to move forward, and that's the $280,000, not out of fund balance. We actually budgeted for that in working with Stephanie and her team, thinking about this opportunity, and then the balance, once we got the quotes in and saw how much the total cost would be, is coming from our S&P budget.
So it's all kind of within the budget then,
Absolutely.
basically. So
Absolutely.
it's nothing coming out of fund balance.
No, ma'am.
So that was my, in essence, the question. Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
So we had a board planning session Saturday that we've all been working all weekend. So you can clearly see we did not have the agenda on as a priority tonight. So I apologize for that. Are you good with your questions? Okay. Ms. Adcock, anything? Ms. Blackwell?
Nope, I was just going to make the motion, but.
Okay. We'll continue down the line. Yeah. Mr.
So what's the life term of this thing? If we purchase it, is another 20 years? Do they not last that long anymore, or what's the?
Probably a 20-year, I would think at this point, yes. Most
Now,
of them last that long.
What do we do with the existing one? Do we surplus that? Do we sell that? Do we?
We can, potentially.
So there's potentially some funding that comes back from that? Probably not a lot, but.
Not much.
And Rob, the issue with that is also the parts that we need to repair them a lot of times aren't available anymore. And it's becoming almost a weekly endeavor for our maintenance department to go over and try to get them up and running. And they're band-aiding these things together to the point that they're becoming unusable. So that's the purpose for this.
But yeah, you've given us justifications for the new ones. That's okay. I guess he answered Carolyn's other questions. So thanks.
I was just going to say, since Tim Lowder and I ate in that cafeteria at Central Cabarrus, that tells you it needs to be replaced.
Dr. Kopicki?
Yeah, just in short, again, these are always big decisions when they come at you in a work session. As you can see, these are desperately needed. This is a good use of funds. Carol, Hernan, and John and Carrie have done their homework. It's a budget item. This is something I'm going to say strong. You have to do, because just by the pictures alone, I've been through these schools. These are desperately needed improvements that we must do. So I would recommend that we approve the dollar amount, just in case there is some wiggle room between the 342 and the 350,000. So the dollar amount on there is 350,000. I would ask you to approve that dollar amount. And again, appreciate your questions. They're all very good questions, and you should ask them. But I just want to reiterate, Carrie, John, and Carol have done their homework on this and to every detail. So something that we definitely need to do. Thank you.
Okay, board members, now may I have a motion?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sanders, I missed you.
I had a question. Sorry about that. Thanks for the presentation, and I totally agree with this, but I did have a question about how do we make sure that this doesn't get to dire need next time?
So this has been we have been looking to do this for the last few years, and with the pandemic, it did get pushed back a few years. So it has been on our to-do list for quite some time.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the cost to replace the serving lines for the 4 schools not to exceed a cost of $350,000.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Blackwell, second by Ms. Sandage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, board members, that concludes our business for tonight. Absolutely, go right ahead.
Yeah, just a quick clarification. I believe when I spoke earlier to the policies on school visitors and volunteers, it's 50-15 and 50-20, not 55-15, 55-20. So I just want to clarify that. Those two policies are 50-15 and 50-20. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. We'd also like to say thank you to our SROs that were with us here tonight, and our meeting next Monday at 6 o'clock is the 14th for our business session. Board members, if you'll just remember to get me some dates for a Thursday evening to finish the planning session. And with that, I will ask for a motion that the board convene in closed session to consult with an attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A3, and to consider confidential personnel matters pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A6.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Blackwell, a second by Mr. Walter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in closed session, and we'll say goodnight to our viewing audience.